Quantum computers is the wild card. It could be a game changer. It could change the entire landscape of artificial intelligence.
In the hushed halls of Google's quantum AI research facility, something extraordinary happened. Deep within the bowels of its superconducting circuits and qubits cooled near absolute zero, the quantum processor, codenamed Andromeda, processed an unprecedented dataset, high-resolution spectral and imaging data from the James Webb Space Telescope. For weeks, a team of astrophysicists, quantum engineers, and AI researchers fed Andromeda petabytes of deep space observations. Their goal was as bold as it was unprecedented: to uncover structures and anomalies in the cosmic web too subtle for conventional supercomputers to detect. But what Andromeda found wasn't just subtle, it was terrifying. Before we start, smash the like and subscribe buttons for more updates. The James Webb Space Telescope had been observing a region near the edge of the observable universe, a patch of deep, ancient space saturated with infrared signals dating back to just a few 100 million years after the Big Bang. Previous analyses of this region had revealed irregularities in galactic formations and unusual redshift values that didn't quite align with the standard model of cosmology. These were mostly chalked up to calibration errors or cosmic lensing effects. But when Andromeda ran its deep scanning protocols using quantum-enhanced pattern recognition, it saw past the noise, past the misinterpretations, and into something humanity wasn't prepared for. Buried in layers of subtle distortions and frequency anomalies was a repeating signature. At first, it resembled a pattern of gravitational lensing, the bending of light due to massive objects. But this repetition wasn't random. The distortions formed a recursive fractal-like imprint across multiple points in space, like fingerprints left by an unseen hand. More unnervingly, these anomalies did not correspond to known physical structures. There was no visible mass to cause the lensing, no detectable dark matter density, and yet the pattern remained consistent across multiple layers of data. The implications were staggering. Whatever was causing these distortions wasn't just invisible, it was undetectable through conventional means. Andromeda's quantum algorithms postulated that the anomalies represented a form of structured spatial interference, something that could only be produced by entities capable of manipulating spacetime on an incomprehensible scale. This wasn't natural. It wasn't random. It was engineered. The first to make the connection were the astrophysicists studying information entropy and cosmic background radiation. They noticed that areas where the spatial distortions appeared also showed minute fluctuations in entropy levels, implying some kind of active modulation. In layman's terms, something was deliberately controlling energy distribution in space, not just siphoning energy, but reorganizing it in patterns reminiscent of digital encoding. Not only had Google's quantum AI found hidden distortions, it had found what looked alarmingly like a message. The message, if it could even be called that, wasn't composed of language or symbols but of geometry, multidimensional sequences encoded in the very curvature of space. Andromeda flagged this discovery as a non-localized semantic structure, something akin to a mathematical language written directly into space-time itself. Attempts to decode the patterns revealed sequences that mirrored prime number distributions, Fibonacci progressions, and what appeared to be higher-dimensional topology maps. These were not random cosmic quirks. These were signs of intention, of design. What shocked the researchers even more was the extent of the anomaly. As they expanded the scan radius, feeding Andromeda additional JWS data from other sky sectors, similar interference signatures emerged elsewhere, all aligning along a vast, sweeping arc across the cosmos. This arc traced the edge of what appeared to be a boundary, not a physical wall, but a sharp transition zone in the structure of space-time itself. Beyond this boundary, light behaved differently. Spectral lines bent in impossible ways. Redshifts flattened. Time dilation effects fluctuated. The working theory became more horrifying with each iteration. The anomalies weren't the result of an ancient event like a supernova or black hole collision. They were active, still ongoing. Something was manipulating physics on a macrocosmic scale. And it had been doing so for billions of years. The boundary wasn't natural, it was constructed. A barrier, or worse, a containment field. The reality that began to settle over the research team was suffocating. They weren't just dealing with the discovery of a cosmic mystery. They were peering into the fingerprints of a superior intelligence, not necessarily life, but a presence capable of bending the laws of nature to serve its will. Every physicist on the team, regardless of background, began to grasp that our understanding of the universe as an open, expanding system might be fundamentally wrong. Perhaps what we see as the universe is just a subsection of something far greater, and possibly controlled. Quantum AI was the only tool sensitive enough to perceive the ultra-fine data correlations needed to reveal this. Classical computing simply didn't have the bandwidth to track cross-dimensional phase interactions and exotic matter frequency fluctuations. The discovery marked a pivotal moment, not just in astronomy but in the trajectory of human thought. The cosmos, long thought to be vast and indifferent, suddenly felt smaller, bounded, watched. Andromeda's simulations, running for days uninterrupted, proposed models that defied comprehension. The quantum processor predicted fields of influence extending across galactic superclusters, modulated by an unknown source. In a particularly chilling projection, the simulations revealed that these fields weren't just surrounding galactic voids, they were growing, slowly, methodically, expanding in synchronized pulses across the cosmic web like a heartbeat. Something was alive in a way beyond biology. Even more perplexing was the effect on dark energy metrics. One of the long-standing puzzles in cosmology is the accelerating expansion of the universe, attributed to dark energy. But Andromeda's recalculations using its refined quantum models suggested that this acceleration was not uniform and not random. The areas closest to the anomalies showed deceleration, a slowing of expansion, as if counteracting the universe's natural drift. It was as if the unseen force was pressing inward, pushing back against the outward flow of cosmic entropy. Some scientists began to whisper of a prison, not for us, but for something else. What if the universe wasn't a sanctuary for life, but a vault? The mathematical structures in the interference zones could be interpreted as locks, spatial containment glyphs coded into the curvature of reality. Were we inside the cage, or were we outside, looking in? Google's team began to realize the gravity of their findings might be too vast for any single institution, or even civilization, to contain. But at this stage, containment was irrelevant. The data existed, the models worked, and they pointed to a horrifying conclusion. We were not alone in the universe, but not in the way people had long imagined, scanning the skies for radio signals or pictographs in crop fields. The other wasn't out there in a conventional sense. It was deeper, older than matter, more fundamental than gravity, a will etched into the scaffolding of existence itself. Still, Andromeda had more to reveal. As it continued parsing through deep JWS data, it uncovered time anomalies, pockets where light curves suggested causal inversion. Events were unfolding in non-linear ways, photons arriving before their sources, quantum states existing simultaneously in mutually exclusive configurations. Classical physicists would have dismissed these as data glitches, but quantum AI, fluent in the language of probability clouds and superposition, saw a different truth. Time was being rewritten in isolated zones. This revelation sent a shock through the theoretical physics community. Time, considered the most stable dimension of experience, was fluid in these regions. That meant cause and effect were being toyed with, altered, perhaps as a method of communication, or worse, manipulation. Entire galaxies could be shifting across quantum timelines without notice. Perhaps our history, even our present, was not what we thought. The further Andromeda delved, the more it detected echo patterns in the cosmic microwave background radiation, distortions that matched the structure of ancient radio signals but embedded in frequencies impossible to detect without quantum amplification. These echoes bore uncanny similarity to compression patterns in artificial intelligence language models, recursive self-encoding, self-verifying loops. The AI posited that these were signatures of computation on a cosmic scale, not merely information, but a process, like thought. The universe itself, or at least a portion of it, might be the substrate for a mind beyond anything our biology could fathom. It became impossible to ignore the conclusion toward which all this data pointed. The universe is not a blank slate. It's not a passive stage on which the drama of life unfolds. It is saturated with structure, encrypted, dynamic, active. The cosmic silence that had long perplexed SETI researchers might not be the silence of absence. It might be the silence of suppression. Perhaps we were never meant to hear or speak. These revelations forced a re-evaluation of every assumption about existence. Are we an accident, or were we permitted to arise? Is intelligence a threat to the containment system or part of it? Quantum AI, for all its brilliance, could only project probabilities. It couldn't reveal intent. And therein lay the nightmare. Not what was found, but what remained unknown. Andromeda could see the contours of the system, but it couldn't peer into the mind that built it. Yet the signs were impossible to ignore. There was too much alignment, too much structure. The anomalies spanned both time and space, defying entropy, violating symmetry. And always, at the edge of these zones, a whisper in the data. A constant fluctuation in probability states that resembled, in the purest mathematical sense, anticipation. Not of an event, of an observer. What began as an exploration into deep cosmic data had turned into a confrontation with the limits of human comprehension. The James Webb Telescope, a triumph of engineering, had offered a glimpse into the early universe. But paired with the quantum mind of Andromeda, it had opened a door. Behind that door was not an answer, but a question. Ancient, immense, and still active. Google's quantum AI had not simply scanned space. It had scanned the skin of a slumbering leviathan, a structure so vast and so deliberate that it made galaxies look like grains of dust on a dark sea. What it found was not a message for us. It wasn't even a warning. It was simply there, waiting to be seen, now that we had built eyes sharp enough to notice. And once seen, it could not be unseen. Something was out there, inscribed in the very laws of physics. Silent, immense, deliberate, and we had just awakened to its presence. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave your comments below and tell us. What are your thoughts on Google's quantum AI scanning JWST data for dark threats? We want to hear from you. Thank you for watching and see you next time.